We'll get started at 6:05 just to give someone a couple of minutes in case they might join us. So in a minute, we'll get started. So it's 6:05. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay, good. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming out. This is the Merced County Association Community Workshop on the Multi-Jurisdictional Housing Element Update. This is a community workshop. The MCAG group has been going to the different cities to conduct workshops on the updates of the housing element. And so this is a workshop being held here at the City of Livingston for the City of Livingston's housing element. Just a quick overview. The purpose of the workshop is really to review the housing element update process. As many of you may know, the state requires each local jurisdiction to really look at its housing needs and housing programs and identify strategies to further housing opportunities. And we're going to be going into that in a little more detail. We have a sign-up sheet, so if you haven't signed in, I ask you to sign up. We have a PowerPoint that we'll be presenting, and we have that available as a handout at the table. In addition to the PowerPoint, we have comment cards that we'll ask you to fill that out. And then we have some additional forms that can be filled out. Our presentation is going to be two parts. The first part is going to be a presentation by myself, and I will introduce Eric Von Berg with Rincon. He's with the consultant that MCAG hired to update the housing elements. So we're going to do a PowerPoint presentation, and then after that, we're going to break up and kind of do a more informal station. So we got 3 stations, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. There'll be one here, one behind to talk a little bit more detail about housing. Just a couple of minor things. The restrooms, if you don't know, I guess everyone does know, they're over here to the left. And we do have some snacks. There's water, there's drinks back there, and our fire department is also going to be, they graciously volunteered hot dogs and hot dogs and stuff, so we can do that as well. So let me turn it over at this point to Eric. Eric, come on board. He's with Rincon. He's the supervising planning manager, I believe. Go ahead, Rick.
Yes. My official title is Supervising Planner, but again, Eric Von Berg with Rincon Consultants, and I've been in the planning field for about 30 years now. So I've gone through a few of these housing elements. I used to try to avoid them. And then I started working for the city of Fresno, and they go, nope, you're doing it. Thank you. So again, with Rincon Consultants, and we're part of the team. We have a whole team working on this multi-jurisdictional housing element. Well, I wanted to do follow the slide instead of just going off the cuff, huh? So here's our agenda. We're going to talk about the housing element, what your housing needs are, and then how you're going to participate, because the main purpose of this whole thing is to get your input on what are the housing needs for the city of Livingston. I'm just the planner here. You guys know your community, so we really want to get that input. So that's what this is, the community workshop. And as Miguel had pointed out, we're going to have these different stations here, information. I'm going to give you a broad overview, and then what's important is to put your stickers on these on the little boards here, and then as well fill out a comment card, or you can always, there's the information to email Miguel with your comments if you want to take stuff home and think about it and then present that information. So it's not just tonight that you have the opportunity to present or provide information. So we thank you for attending the workshop. And again, we've kind of introduced ourselves. Here's our team. And so what is the housing element? what is every jurisdiction in the state of California has what's called the general plan, and it's kind of your blueprint for how you're going to develop. And there's mandatory elements in each general plan. One of them, which is the housing element. And the housing element's kind of set aside from the regular general plan, and that it has to be updated every 8 years. You have to adopt a new housing element. And so that's what this one is here. Cover you from 2023 to 2031. And as always with the state of California, they keep adding more things to it, right? So it used to be more of a number game, and then the state started, no, you can't just play with the numbers, you have to really do stuff. And now there's different things we'll get into here as far as what is required with your housing element. I'm gonna go this way, and then I don't have to keep turning away from you guys. So the process here, what we've done is that we're, MCAG is overseeing this whole process for all 7 of the jurisdictions within Merced County. So it's the county and the 6 cities that we're doing these housing elements for. So there'll be a regional housing element that kind of covers the broad bases of what the housing needs are in the whole entire county, and then basically an appendix for each city and the county as far as then their actual housing element. So one of the benefits is it kind of reduces the cost then. We're combining all this work so that it's more of a, it's easier for you guys to pay for. So why have a housing element? Well, the state mandates it, so requires it. And so what happens is if you don't have your housing element, then there's certain grant programs that you might not be eligible for, or you can be held liable for not providing enough housing, or it'll allow for a developer to come in and build housing that isn't consistent with your planning because you didn't do your housing element and allow for the housing needs that the state has told you need to build. So here's what the housing element covers: your housing needs assessment, where we look at your demographics and what's currently available here in the city of Livingston. What are sort of the market, governmental, environmental concerns within the area there that could restrict or promote housing? Sort of what are the resources you have here? And then as well, then you have your housing plan. So what are the policies and programs to achieve your housing? And that's the meat of the housing element, is that there's certain programs in there that then you're required to then accomplish within this 8 years. And that can be a variety of different things. So here's the process of the housing element update. So we're right here at the community workshops, dot number 3. And then we'll, so I don't know if anyone see the online survey, and I think that's still going. Is that still up? You guys have that up, so you can do the online survey as well if you want. Trying to get your input here. That'll go into our housing element that will then present for public review. And then after that, we then send it up to the Housing Community Development. They have 90 days to review it. They usually come back with comments, and then we address those comments. And then we can finally get to where then the City Council can adopt the housing element. And then at that point, if we're having to do rezonings, then we have a year to get those rezonings in place that are required to make sure you meet your housing needs, and then as well start implementing those programs that were in the housing element. So what are your housing needs? So we looked at different demographic trends. As you can see here, sort of the initial information that we have about your housing needs. And then this is the new program that was required by the state with this 6th cycle, they're calling it 6th cycle housing element. So it's the affirmatively further fair housing. So to make sure that you're not just designating land for, okay, here's areas where we have low income or very low income housing, but as well, how are you going to promote that and make sure that in the entire city that it's a fair housing for everyone. And then here's kind of a list of kind of the things that we look at for when we look at fair housing concerns. Discrimination, that there's outreach and efforts to implement these things. Is there historic patterns, such as, I don't know if you've heard the term redlining, where in years past where minorities could only build on the other side of the tracks, that kind of thing. And so is that continuing on in the city, those kind of issues there. So making sure that those types of issues are addressed in the housing element. So this is what we refer to as the RHNA, your Regional Housing Needs Allocation. And this is what the state is requiring the city of Livingston to build. And it's broken down into the very low, low, and then those get kind of combined into as a low-income housing, those two numbers there, moderate, above moderates, and then your total is 1,097.
Eric, just a point of clarification. The city is not required to build them. We're not a builder.
That's correct. So all the housing element does is say, we're providing lands available to build these number of housing in here, plus a buffer. But the city itself is not going to build those housing. Then it's up to the development community, self-help, programs and anything else to actually build the housing. But the housing element itself does not build any houses. You're correct. It's a very important point. So in this process was that the state basically provided MCAG with the number of housing that needed for all of Merced County, including the cities, and then worked with the cities and the county to then develop your RHNA allocation. And then we looked at from that allocation, that's the map over there, and some newer ones that we just refined recently, of identifying lands within the city that we could rezone or are available for housing to meet those RHNA goals that I just showed you. So here's the current map right now, showing available housing. So these are areas we've identified as vacant land that the city can allow for development to occur to meet those RHNA needs. So this is where we want your input to think, are these good locations? Are there other locations that might be better suited? And then a point of clarification on all this is that the state has certain requirements, like to be a very low income housing, it has to have at least 20 units an acre. Otherwise, they don't consider it low income housing. And they have other requirements like that. So we could identify areas that maybe looks like a good place for low-income housing or moderate, housing, but then we have to make sure it would also meet the state requirements for on those sites. But that could just result in the need to rezone the property or something like that. So here's the different ways to participate. As Miguel had mentioned, we have our comment cards and other documents here. Put your stickers and notes. There's the poster on the table is to write your comments down. Go ahead and email us. Go online, look at things. This, like I said, it's not just today that you have the chance to participate, but just you can go home and think about it. Email us, give us a call. I can give you my business card too. So here's there's the project website to get more information, or you forget things, or if I spoke too fast. So, again, we need that participation in there, and that's something that the HCD or Housing Community Development really looks for. Just make sure that we're reaching out to the public in the communities and getting their input on these things. So here's the different activities. Like we said, we'll have the stickers over there. You can see where would you like to see the housing, to put down where you want to see the housing. You get 3 choices on the different categories here of what you want selected there, and then as well over there to write comments there on fair housing. So again, here's the other ways to get a hold of the city. And thank you for your time, and happy to answer any questions. Or we can just break out and go to the workshop. Yeah.
One quick question on the low income. What is that dollar amount? What year was that based on?
The state has all these requirements as far as what would constitutes a low income housing, or would qualify as very low income housing, and it's basically, I don't remember exactly, but it's basically a certain percentage below the median household income within your community. So it is based on the city of Livingston. And then very low is like less than 25 or 25% below the median income, something like that. I can look that information up for you, but yeah, we can send that to you. But there's those requirements there, and that's what I was kind of referring to, where the state really dictates what we can say is very low income, what's low income, and then it gets a little easier with moderate and above moderate.
Where does the city stand as a whole right now, do you know? At one time, from going back when we used to attend all the city council members years ago, it was still low income as a city. Now, I believe that's changed. What is our, we more middle income, we low, what is the latest statistic from the state? What is Livingston? What is where do we stand?
I have to look that up for you. Do you have it?
Generally speaking, most of the new homes that have been built have been purchased by folks that are in the higher income, above median area income. So overall, the income for the city has gone up. The area median income for Merced County, a family of four, is $83,800. Some of that's considered, we have acutely low, extremely low, very low income. A very low income household, a family of four, they earn no more than $41,250. The low income is $65,950. And that's the household income. That's all folks that are bringing income to the household. So again, the area median income for Merced County as of 2023 is $83,800. Slowly it's progressing because of inflation, but the price of homes have also continued to rise.
Because the goal is that you don't pay more than a third of your income on housing.
New interest rates and that.
No. No, it's not. Any other questions?
Maybe I missed it somewhere, but according to where statistics stand right now in that, okay, where statistics stand right now for Livingston, how many low-income houses are we having to provide?
So this is the table here. So we have
Okay.
311 very low, and then 213 low, and then what HED is basically combines those two numbers there for your low-income housing, the goal you have to meet. And then they like to have a buffer, about a 15 to 20% buffer, because lands could, may not be able to fit as many houses on that or units on that property as was expected, or things happen because.
And out of that, say for the low, the 213, or the very low 311, where do we stand now?
Well, so these are the ones that you need to.
These are just for the future.
This is right now. So once this gets adopted, so you have within 8 years. This is your goal to have these. Now again, as Miguel had pointed out, it's not the city that's going to go out and build those houses.
Oh, definitely.
You're saying. We've designated and we've zoned this land so that you can build 311 very low income housing in the city of Livingston. Now, whether somebody can come in and do that and make a profit, or as a nonprofit, that's totally separate. So the housing element, the goal of the housing element is to provide the opportunity for that housing, and then it's up to private development to actually build the houses.
And then to provide the very low or the low, if you don't have any general contractors or developers who want to partake in that, are there grants available to the state for the builders?
There can be money available, yeah. So there's different grant programs that are out there. There's right now it's called the REAP grant program, regional. I can't remember the name of there's the LEAP, and now there's the REAP, and it's REAP 2.0, they're calling it, where REAP 1.0 was a lot of money coming in to help do the planning work for to promote housing, and now REAP 2.0 is then to provide funding for housing within the whole state of California, and it's each tranche, they're calling it. I don't know where that word came from, but of money is now directed. So MCAG is getting that set amount of money that then is going to be distributed to all the cities in the county. And that's to really build housing and what's the term the state uses right now? It's the basically transformative housing. And they don't quite define that. And so different jurisdictions or agencies across the valley are handling it differently. Fresno Council of Governments, they're going out to their individual communities saying, you give us, you tell us what you want to build, and then we'll rank those and then allocate the money that way. Tulare County picked 3 or 4 projects that then they're pushing through HCD to get built. So I'm not sure MCAG where they're at with that money there, but that's one source of money that's available there. And then other public, there's nonprofit groups that build housing, and they usually have a good identification of different funding sources.
I was going to say the REAP, which stands for the Regional Early Action Planning Grants. Recently, the City Council has allocated the allocation that came from MCAG to the city to an affordable housing project that's proposed by Self-Help Enterprises. Right now, the city has one affordable housing project that's been approved, which is the Tierra Santa Villas, which is over on the north side of B Street, west of the existing apartments, Las Casitas. That's an 80-unit affordable housing project. That one is funded mostly, it's received funding from 2 state grants, and they're still pursuing additional funding. That will be for low-income households, rental. The Self-Help Enterprises project, we recently completed our project referral process this last week. That's proposing 80 units of affordable housing units on the south side of B Street, east of Winton Parkway. So we do have some projects, and it's just very competitive. I mean, it's very costly to build affordable housing, because usually housing that's rental for a long time, it has to, you have to monitor it, the rents can't go up, and so it requires a long-term subsidy. And so you kind of are required to face the financial costs up front to make those affordable for a long period. And usually they're affordable for like 50 years and so on and so forth. Other ways that the city can meet its affordable housing needs is through, as Eric mentioned, through promoting apartment projects that are higher density, over 20 units per acre. And even in small family homes, through the state law, we allow accessory dwelling units, whether attached to the house or detached. That gives an opportunity for additional housing units to be developed and rented, or they cannot be sold, but ADUs go a long way for helping make ends meet for the existing property owner, but also to provide additional housing opportunities. And sometimes they're great because you have multi-generational families living on the site. And, it's like, okay, mother can move over there, or the newlyweds can move into the small house, what have you. So those are different ways that affordable housing can be made, can be achieved here.
Yeah, and then there's certain rules in the housing element that you can get so much credit for having zoning that allows for the ADUs. Well, it's state law that you have to allow ADUs. And then they also have junior ADUs, or junior accessory dwelling units. And then as I was going to point out, when you talked about the number of housing that you need to develop, so when he was talking about any housing that had a building permit, I think it's by July 31st of this year, it was counted towards your last housing element. And so then anything that, could be in the works and you haven't approved yet, you'll get credit for during this housing element.
Again, I just want to stress, the city is just required to identify land that can be used to develop housing units, whether they're affordable housing, market rate. the city's not required to build them. We're not a builder per se, but we should try to facilitate that and promote housing opportunities. And it's everything from, you know, care facilities, homeless shelters, apartments, duplexes, and even single family. You know, you get some projects that have sweat equity components or smaller houses, but and oftentimes in today's market, you really need to increase the number of units to make a project pencil out. So, you know, the days of having a single family home that's on a 7,000 square foot lot, those are going to be luxury. You know, you're going to have homes where you got two homes on a home on a 3,500 square foot lot. The lots are beginning to shrink so we can make projects work.
Yeah, I'm processing a project in city of San Joaquin where they're doing basically like townhomes. So it's 2 units. They're each on a separate lot, but it's one building basically. They're sharing the property line. And so it's like I guess you'd call it a townhome. And then there's other things like we call it the missing middle housing on a single family lot. You can build a house that's actually a duplex or a triplex or a fourplex. So that then there's, you know, 4 units instead of 1 unit on that single family lot.
One other quick question, tiny homes, some cities are reviewing and looking at building tiny homes. Does that would those be considered in the number? I don't think we're at that area where we need it, but it's just...
Yeah, I think you can get credit for that. There's, I'm sure, regulations by HCD of, you know, how much credit you can get for those. I don't know the specifics on it, but yeah, a lot of times those are looked at, especially for transitional housing or, you know, housing of the homeless. That type of unit is an effective way to get people off the streets. So it's definitely something the state is, you know, encouraging for that type of thing. And those could be considered an ADU as well, where you can just, you know, put that tiny home in your backyard, and then that's your accessory dwelling unit. You know, and those could be things of, you have homes with detached garages in the back, you build a unit up above that, you know, and then that's your ADU or second unit. So there's a variety of ways to, you know, we can do that. And then that's what some of those programs can be in your housing element is maybe developing your, you know, revising your zoning code to allow those kind of things. Or so those are the types of programs that would be in the housing element. And then once it's adopted, then it's that process of then following through with those programs. And the state keeps an eye on that.
I do have a copy of the current City of Livingston Housing Element Update. This was last adopted in June 2016. It's June 21st, 2016. But when you look at it, you can look at the housing goals. So the housing element will have to have housing goals, and it'll also have housing policies. It'll also identify housing programs. And for example, a first-time home buyers program was as mentioned, and you know, oftentimes local jurisdictions will have funds to lend. Maybe it's like a $50,000 down payment assistance program, but oftentimes that's not even enough to help a household that's low-income qualify for a mortgage loan, you know, and maintain that. And so one thing's a down payment. The other thing is to be able to make payments on the regular mortgage, but the price of homes today, they're just out of the reach of many people. So even though we have some of these programs, they may need to have a closer look to see, you know, whether or not we can adjust them to make them more feasible, practical. At this point, we'll break into our different stations.
Okay.
You want to go over the different stations one more time? I think we have 3.
So we have here the affirmatively furthering fair housing. Easy for me to say. So there's boxes there, or I have some sticky notes if you want to write on the sticky notes and then put them in the boxes there. But looking at what you think are sort of the fair housing needs here in the city. And then here's where would you like to see housing? So you grab grab a sticker and put it on the map where you think is the appropriate area that you want to see more housing, or the city to encourage more housing. And then this one here is that you get only 3 stickers. And there's the different categories here as far as housing, difficult for people to find housing. So it's locate type of housing needed, rent affordability or increases, community opposition to new housing, lack of housing close to stores, schools, or work, transportation issues, lack of housing with supportive services, discrimination based on protected characteristics. It's just difficult to buy a home, or then you can write in the box down there if you have other categories you want us to look at, or you think is the issue. So with that, thank you very much, and I'll be staying around to answer questions as you're doing this.
You know what, I had just a question. So since many of the Livingston city members aren't here tonight, is this presentation available on the website with their options to vote as well?
Well, yeah, that's where you can go out and let everyone know that, there was his address, there's the website for the housing element. They can go make those comments there. Like I said, it's not just tonight that we're taking comments. We're taking comments throughout the process. So, let people know that there's those other options available. And I don't know if this is being recorded, Mike? Okay, so then this will be available as well for people to listen into.
Okay.
And I can go watch, see how many times I said
Okay.
All right, so thank you, yeah. So let's go ahead and stick her away.
Selective hearing.
These way up here, yeah, these big ones are. Where's the one? Oh, yeah, peach. We got like this right here too. So we got some here, we got some over here. What's that? So this is the property behind the value market. Actually, these people are interested in rezoning property. So we're trying to identify the property. I just play around now. I'm just messing. Asking. Is she able to write on here? So this is, which property should I consider? For example, this is a big area that's R1, it's in the city. Does it make sense for us to increase, the zoning there from R1 to R3? These people are interested.